Greetings and welcome to another Pokemon 2019 or Pokemon Journeys anime episode review. This time I'm talking about episode 117, so let's get to it. Episode 117 begins with Cynthia and Iris about to begin their battle. Go uses his Pokedex on both Gastrodon and Excadrill. Upon hearing Excadrill's Pokedex entry, Ash comments that he has not seen Iris' Excadrill in a long time and that Iris has been racing Excadrill since he was just a Drillbur. Hop is shocked because Ash knows Iris as well. Go mentions that Ash traveled through Unova with Iris and that Ash is also well acquainted with Cynthia. This shocks Hop even more and he says, "What is up with you, Ash?" Now this is funny because in the previous episode, Hop was shocked because Ash knows Lance and Diantha, on top of being someone that Leon has his eyes on. Hop even said that Ash has a knack for getting champions to notice him, and I mentioned in my review of episode 116 that if only Hop knew that Ash also knows Cynthia and Steven, then he would know just how right he is about Ash. So it's hilarious that Hop does learn that Ash knows even more champions. Now I did not include Iris because I thought that Hop already knew that Ash knows Iris, since in episode 115, Hop learned that Go knows Iris. So I figured that by association, Hop would assume that Ash also knows Iris. The episode then cuts to Team Rocket, who is still streaming the tournament. They talk about how excited they are. Meowth then mentions that he knows the Freely girl. James says that Meowth is right, that this is the Unova brat girl. Jessie comments that the Unova brat girl is all dressed up. Now in episode 115, Team Rocket also said that they believed that they knew Alon, though they could not recall who he was. I guess that they have been through so much that they just cannot remember everyone they have encountered. The episode then cuts to the locker room. Diantha comments upon seeing Excadrill, but Iris is a dragon user. Alon comments that Excadrill was a surprise and Diantha nods in agreement. Steven then mentions that Iris has even received lessons from Cynthia. Alon says that this means that Cynthia and Iris know each other's cards. Leon then wonders if they will see a changing of the guard and he says that this battle is one to watch. The episode then cuts to the battlefield where the battle finally begins. I do want to mention that it is a shame that they wasted so much time to get to the actual battle. This battle began in episode 116, so episode 117 should have started with the battle already underway. But instead, it takes 4 minutes and 16 seconds for the battle to actually begin. Between the opening and the unnecessary 1-minute recap of the previous episode, it took 2 minutes and 39 seconds for the episode to actually begin. And then, they waste even more time, 21 seconds to be exact, by showing us Pokedex entries for both Gastrodon and Excadrill. The other 1 minute and 16 seconds is spent hearing what the other characters have to say, which yeah is worthwhile, but not completely necessary. So they waste way too much time that should have been used for the battle instead. At least, the recap and the Pokedex entries should have been eliminated. A minute and 21 seconds could have gone a long way towards improving the battle. So Gastrodon begins by using Rain Dance, which summons the rain. Disregarding the rain, Excadrill charges forth with Metal Claw. I do want to mention a fun fact here. In Japanese, Excadrill is voiced by Kiyotaka Furushima, who also voices Paul and several notable Pokemon like Ash's Talonflame, Dawn's Cyndaquil/Quilava, and Jessie's Yanma/John Mega. So Excadrill hits Gastrodon with Metal Claw, but Gastrodon is able to easily take and repel the hit. Cynthia comments that she can tell that Iris has sharpened her attacks. Iris says that she learned a lot from Cynthia. They then show us a flashback of when Cynthia and Iris trained together back in the Black and White series. Iris goes on to say that she and her Pokemon are still growing thanks to the advice provided by Cynthia. and that she became champion because of said advice. Iris then declares that today, as Unova's champion, she will defeat Cynthia. Now I love that while Iris talks, the episode cuts to the Unova region to show that Alder, Trip, Bianca, Stefan, Georgia, Drayden, and his Axew are watching the battle. It is of course very cool to see all these characters again. It is worth noting also that as of this episode, every single one of Ash's main rivals and every single regional champion, both former and current, have appeared in Pokemon Journeys. In response to Iris's declaration, Cynthia simply smiles and she calls for Muddy Water. Excadrill counters with Focus Blast, but he is swallowed by the massive Muddy Water before he can attack. After getting swept around by the Muddy Water, Excadrill ends up hurt and muddy. It is worth noting that Excadrill is weak to water-type moves and that Muddy Water is stronger because of the rain, so Excadrill took quite a bit of damage. Cynthia says that as she and Iris stand upon this stage, they are both nothing more than Pokemon trainers. Yet, at the same time, they are challengers aiming for the top, so she will not go easy on Iris. To test her own potential, she will defeat Iris and she will move onwards. Man, Cynthia is just way too cool. Also, I love that Cynthia says this because it shows that even though she clearly cares for Iris and that she is happy to see how far Iris has come, Cynthia will not pull her punches. She will not hold back just because Iris is special to her. Cynthia is still willing to use her full might to crush Iris. And even though they go way back, even though they care for each other, even though they respect each other, even though they are friends, here in the battlefield, they are just two stronger trainers aiming to be the best. Nothing more and nothing less. There is no room for special treatment, and this is not some friendly competition. They are both here to win. They are both playing for keeps, which is why they have to put their feelings aside so that they can battle without restraint. Now this does seem cold. I certainly thought that Cynthia acted too distant in this episode for the most part. But upon rewatching the episode for this review, I realized the true meaning of Cynthia's speech. And it does make sense that she would do this, since, as a champion, she does have a title to uphold. A title that she cannot bring shame to. She has to battle in a way that befits said title and that meets the expectations of those that admire and respect the title. Besides, doing this definitely suits Cynthia, since she has always been equal parts badass and sweet. She has always been caring, kind, wholesome, modest, and nice one moment, and ruthless, serious, calm, collected, and unyielding another moment. It is this contrast that makes Cynthia such a compelling, likable, and complex character. Also, I love that while Cynthia is talking, the episode does cut to Sinnoh, where we see that Paul, who returns once again, and his brother Reggie, whom we have not seen in a long time, are watching the battle. It is of course very nice to see them, especially since Paul took the time to train Ash in episode 114, and he is now watching the tournament, so he will get to see Ash and the result of their training in action. We also see that Bogner and Flint are also watching the battle, and they have Electivire and Infernape beside them. It is of course very cool as well to see these characters again. It is worth noting that they seem to be outside Bogner's gym and Flint has a towel around his neck, so they were likely training together. Since they both should still be in the Ultra class, it is likely that they are training hoping that they can make it into the Masters 8 next season. Also, I do wanted to say that it is great that we get to see so many familiar characters in this episode, especially since they are shown when the champion of their region is talking. This happened in the previous episode as well, and I said in my review of said episode that I hope that this happens with every champion, so I am glad that it did indeed happen. Also, it's funny that I said in that review that they should have shown more characters. Gym leaders and Elite Four especially, and they do indeed show more characters in this episode when compared to the previous one, and They do show gym leaders, an Elite Four member, and even a former champion. I want to say as well that they will likely do this with Ash and Steven. In fact, this scene shown in a special preview will likely be shown for Ash. Therefore, I won't say that I hope that they do this with Ash and Steven, since it is clear that they will. Also, hopefully, for Steven/Hoenn, we get to see May, Max, their family, Wallace, Drew, and Harley. Wallace would be pretty funny since he seems to dislike Steven. I can see him rejoicing if Steven loses, which is what will happen. So Gastrodon uses Acid Armor, which increases its defense sharply. Excadrill then uses Drill Run. But just like before, Gastrodon easily takes and repels the hit. Unlike before though, Gastrodon now has a defense boost, so this time it took even less damage. Gastrodon then uses Muddy Water. Iris tells Excadrill to dodge the Muddy Water, but Excadrill is unable to do so. Instead, he slams one of his claws into the ground in order to avoid being swept by Muddy Water like before. His plan works, but Excadrill still ends up underwater and he suffers damage continuously. Iris says, "I will put my faith in Excadrill and I will bet on this attack." She then calls for Horn Drill. Excadrill soon emerges from the water while using Horn Drill, and he charges towards Gastrodon while Iris screams, "One-hit knockout!" Excadrill crashes into Gastrodon, which causes a huge splash of water. Excadrill jumps back, leaving Gastrodon's fate shrouded in water. Once the water dissipates, it is revealed that Horn Drill found its mark and Gastrodon was knocked out, since like Iris exclaimed, Horn Drill will always be a one-hit knockout should it connect. Which happens infrequently since, for the most part, the move has low accuracy. Now I have to say that I find that the conclusion to this first round underwhelming, since Gastrodon had the advantage the entire time. On top of having the advantage based on typing, it also dealt a lot of damage to Excadrill and it easily shrugged off everything Excadrill threw at it. So by all accounts, Gastrodon should have won, which is why it feels very cheap that Excadrill won because of luck. Excadrill and Iris took a huge gamble with a move that has very low accuracy and their gamble paid off, meaning that basically Gastrodon lost because of bad luck. And yes, I know that luck plays a part in every RPG. Pokemon is no exception. Sometimes you are at the mercy of RNG. Sometimes, whether you win or lose depends entirely on luck. But this almost always feels cheap, and especially here, it feels like they could not find a creative or strategic way to have Excadrill win, especially within the time constraints they set for themselves. So they were just like, oh whatever, let's just have Excadrill use Horn Drill. No one can complain that it does not make sense since Horn Drill is always a one-hit knockout, and we can end the battle fast this way. It's a double win. Yeah, this is true. But they did not consider that it would feel cheap that Iris takes the lead because of luck and not because of skill. Having Iris and Excadrill win with strategy and willpower instead would have greatly improved this first round and the battle overall. So it soon stops raining right after Gastrodon is knocked out. Iris and Excadrill both celebrated their victory. Meanwhile, James comments that the Freely Unova girl is not half bad. Meowth says that the Freely Unova girl only made it this far because of the training they provided. And Jessie says that the Freely Unova girl should come say thank you to them. It's always funny when Team Rocket end up momentarily supporting Ash or one of his friends. So Cynthia withdraws and praises Gastrodon for doing well. Cynthia then sends out her next Pokemon, which is Milotic, a new Pokemon for Cynthia, though she does use one in the games. Since they are ahead, Iris confidently calls for Drill Run, hoping to keep up the pressure. But Milotic easily avoids the Drill Run, much to Excadrill's surprise. Milotic then uses Hydro Pump, which lands a direct hit on Excadrill, who crashes into the wall behind Cynthia and it is knocked out. Iris is shocked because Excadrill was taken out so easily and so fast. She then withdraws and praises Excadrill for hanging in there. Iris then comments that she could not predict Milotic's moves, since Milotic is too fast. Iris then sends out her second Pokemon, which is Dragonite. Upon seeing a Dragonite, Cynthia says, "Oh, I haven't seen you in a while." Cynthia says this of course because she did talk to Dragonite back in the Black and White series, since Cynthia took an interest in Dragonite's relationship with Iris. So it's nice that Cynthia briefly breaks out of her ruthless mode to show that she still remembers Dragonite. Also, I love that Cynthia says this while using one of her hands to move some of her hair back. This is such a lovely sight. So Iris says to Cynthia, "Just watch and see what Dragonite can do." Dragonite begins with Thunder Punch. While Milotic avoids the first two punches, it is pummeled by the rest. Milotic is even electrocuted afterwards. So it appears that Milotic took some good damage here, and not just because it was hit multiple times, but also because it is weak to electric type moves. However, Milotic shrugs off the damage and it counters by also using a move that is super effective against its opponent, Disarming Voice, which demolishes Dragonite, who takes so much damage that he falls to one knee. Milotic takes this chance to wrap itself around the Dragonite. Milotic then uses Iron Head to bash the trapped Dragonite on the head. This looks very painful and it is kind of unsettling, especially since Dragonite's expression makes it seem like he was left with a very serious concussion. Milotic then lets go of Dragonite, who tumbles over and he is knocked out. Though we don't actually see this, since they show Iris's shocked expression instead. Now I have to say that they did Dragonite very dirty here, and I really hate this. I honestly could not believe my eyes when I was watching the episode. I could not believe that this happened. Dragonite was taken out in about a minute, with 2 moves, and it basically did nothing. It only landed 1 attack. A super effective one that likely did a lot of damage, yes, but it was only 1 move. To make matters worse, we did not even get to see the moment when Dragonite faints. They show Dragonite start to fall, but they cut it to Iris immediately, and the referee says Dragonite is unable to battle while Iris is on screen. So Dragonite is basically knocked out off screen, which is just so disrespectful, because it feels like Dragonite does not even deserve to faint on screen. They should have at least shown Dragonite falling and being knocked out, so that at least Dragonite's final moment is acknowledged and he at least gets to go out with some dignity. Still, even if they had done this, it would not have alleviated the main issue, which is that Dragonite was sacrificed so that Haxorus could take all the spotlight. Instead of having both of them shine, they opted instead to have Dragonite take a massive loss, so that Haxorus could go on to show off. This is just wrong, because the whole point of this battle is to have Iris show just how far she has come, especially because she is facing the person that helped her get this far, and part of showing Iris's progress is showing the progress her Pokemon have made, namely Dragonite, who did not listen to Iris before, and Haxorus, who was just an Axew prior to Pokemon Journeys. Cynthia had some influence in the growth of these 2 Pokemon. Therefore, having them both show Cynthia just how strong they are now after getting over their individual limitations is what should have happened and what I expected it to see. Having Dragonite go down so quickly, so easily, and without him showing off how strong he is now goes completely against the purpose of this episode and battle. For me, this reduced the quality of this episode significantly. So Iris withdraws Dragonite and she says that Dragonite must be frustrated. Iris then says that she feels the pain of her Pokemon. She tells Dragonite to wait and see, that she will win the next bout. Iris then sends out her final Pokemon, which is of course Haxorus. Iris says that when she became champion, Haxorus was the one who finished the battle. I do wish that she revealed who she battled in order to become champion. Iris then says that Haxorus is always giving her strength. Upon hearing this, Cynthia simply smiles. She then goes back to her ruthless mode and she calls for disarming voice. Haxorus defends himself by using a Psycho Cut to disperse the disarming voice. This surprises Milotic and Cynthia, who says, "Not bad." Milotic then uses Hydro Pump, but Haxorus uses Breaking Swipe to break through the Hydro Pump and to hit Milotic, who is launched into the air. Milotic falls behind Cynthia and it is knocked out. Iris and Haxorus both energetically celebrated their victory, while Cynthia withdraws and praises Milotic for doing well. Cynthia then sends out her final Pokemon, which is of course Garchomp. At this point I thought, the boss is here, so playtime is over. No more games. In fact, boss music even plays while Garchomp descends from the skies like a boss from Demon Souls / Dark Souls / Bloodborne / Sekiro / Elden Ring would do. This is just so epic. Iris says, "So, you're finally here, Garchomp." Haxorus and Garchomp then stare at each other for a while. I do wanted to mention here that these two have already battled in the past, back when Haxorus was still just an Axew. That battle was of course far from fair. Now however they are standing on more even ground, and it really is something special to see them go from this to this. So Garchomp begins the battle by using Draco Meteor. Haxorus counters by using Outrage. Now I do want to point out that this moment where Haxorus uses Outrage while the Draco Meteor rains down seems to have been taken directly from episode 65. This is the moment when Haxorus was defeated by Ash's Dragonite. Of course, this time Haxorus is not defeated. Instead, it charges forward with Outrage, shattering the meteors in the process. Once Haxorus closes the gap, both Pokemon headbutt each other. Haxorus soon briefly overpowers Garchomp and he lands a good headbutt. However, Garchomp counters by slapping Haxorus twice. Both of them then clash with their tails before jumping back. This fierce exchange is definitely one of my favorite parts of this battle, because it is just so cool. This shot of them clashing with their tails is especially amazing and one of my absolute favorite moments in the entire episode. Now normally you just see Pokemon fire their moves at each other, so it is rare to see Pokemon get into such an intense close range brawl where they just pummel each other like this. Whenever this happens, it is always so awesome. Due to Outrage, Haxorus soon ends up confused, but like he did in episode 65, Haxorus smashes his head into the ground in order to snap out of his confusion. This makes Cynthia smile. Leon also smiles while exclaiming, "That was awesome!" Iris then says that the battle is not over yet, that she and Haxorus can still fight. She then psychs herself up alongside Haxorus. Cynthia says that Iris is marvelous, and in response to Iris's fighting spirit, Cynthia says, "Alright, well in that case," she then takes out a lipstick which she proceeds to apply, and she says, "I will defeat you with all my might." Cynthia then reveals that this lipstick houses a keystone, which she uses to Mega Evolve Garchomp. Now this is of course not surprising, since the previews did reveal that Cynthia would Mega Evolve Garchomp. But while this is not surprising, it is still nonetheless very cool and very exciting. Also, I do want to mention a couple of things. First, this scene where Cynthia takes out and applies the lipstick is simply beautiful, stylish, and charming. Just an absolute delight to watch. I really do love it, especially because her lips and nails become noticeably pink and shinier, which is a lovely touch. Second, like Ash's Lucario, Garchomp does not have a necklace or bracelet or anything like this that holds the Mega Stone. Instead, the Mega Stone just appears out of nowhere. So, Mega Garchomp soon enters the battlefield. This leaves Ash, Hop, Go, and their Pokemon shocked and amazed. Back in the locker room, Steven says that this must be Cynthia, showing that she is serious. Alon says that he cannot tell how the battle will play out, since Haxorus has a lot of potential. Now I do want to mention here that Lance is not here in the locker room, so after his battle with Diantha, he did not return to the locker room, and his location is currently unknown. It is a shame that he is not here, especially since he is missing out on an epic battle between two Dragon-type Pokemon. Meanwhile, Meowth is shocked because Cynthia used Mega Evolution. James says that he is now getting fired up, while Jessie says how strong. I really want it. It is unknown if she means Garchomp, the Keystone, and Megastone, or all three. Now I love that Garchomp sharpens her scythes, which is just so cool. This makes Garchomp look like some bloodthirsty butcher. Garchomp then roars to show how serious, strong, and fierce she is. While Haxorus is shocked and taken aback by this at first, he soon roars back to show that he is not backing down. This makes Cynthia smile. Garchomp then charges forth with Dragon Claw. Haxorus counters with Psycho Cut. Both Pokemon clash with intensity, which causes a massive shockwave and both Pokemon are pushed back. However, they soon rush each other and they proceed to get into a heated brawl where they both attack with all their might while refusing to back down. This is just so epic, and another one of my favorite moments. Haxorus soon manages to parry one of Garchomp's attacks. This leaves Garchomp open to a counterattack. Haxorus seizes this opportunity by using Mega Charizard X Slayer, Dragon Pulse, which lands a direct hit, and Garchomp is pushed back. However, since Garchomp is not a Mega Charizard X, she is still standing. This frustrates Iris, who was hoping that Garchomp would go down. Iris says that she and Haxorus are so close to winning. Iris then decides to communicate with Haxorus using her special ability. Once the two connect, Iris says to Haxorus that this will be their final attack, so they should give it everything they have. After they talk, Iris and Haxorus show that they are now fighting as one. Now I did think for a split second here, wait, is Iris going to win? No way, right? But linking up with your Pokemon like this to deliver the final attack as one is something that normally means victory. If this was Ash, he would most likely win. Cynthia senses that something is up, so she tells Garchomp to finish the battle with her next attack. Cynthia then calls for Draco Meteor, so both sides are betting everything on their next attack. Haxorus fires a full power Dragon Pulse, and I love that the important characters that are watching the battle appear in the background. They are all eagerly waiting to see how the battle will end. Meanwhile, Garchomp surrounds herself with a huge amount of energy and she fires off a massive Draco Meteor, which soon rains down on the battlefield. The Dragon Pulse scatters to intercept the meteors. So basically, two powerful Dragon-type moves rain on each other and on the battlefield / Pokemon. I have to say that I am a huge fan of this final clash of moves, since it looks simply epic, especially from the perspective of the announcer. The rain of moves is so powerful that the battlefield is covered in smoke. The shield protecting the audience even had to kick in. Once the smoke clears, it is revealed that Garchomp and Haxorus are both still standing. So this is the classic Pokemon anime moment where we are left in suspense as to who won after a massive, decisive clash. While both Pokemon have their eyes closed and they look like robots that ran out of battery, they both soon open their eyes, revealing that they are still conscious. Though Haxorus is clearly severely hurt, while Garchomp looks perfectly fine, and sure enough, Haxorus soon falls down and it is knocked out. So Cynthia is the winner, which is not surprising. This is what I expected. It is worth noting that the battle ends with 5 minutes of the episode left. 1 minute and 50 seconds of this is the ending theme and the preview. So there really is only 3 minutes and 10 seconds of the actual episode left. But still, some of this could have been used to extend the battle a little more. Added to this the time wasted in the beginning of the episode, and they really could have expanded this battle if they had managed their time better. The battle could have been much better. So Garchomp returns to normal. Cynthia praises and thanks Garchomp for battling well. Meanwhile, Iris embraces Haxorus while saying that he did his best. Iris then says while holding Haxorus closer that she loves him, Dragonite, and Excadrill. What a sweet moment. Cynthia then approaches Iris with a smile. Iris thanks Cynthia for the battle and she says that she will get a whole lot stronger. Cynthia says that it was an unforgettable battle and she thanks Iris. Now Ash seems to be mad because Iris lost. My first thought here was that he is thinking, how dare she do this to Iris? Meanwhile, Meowth exclaims that the Freely Unova girl was so close. James says that he knows that this loss will only make her stronger. Jessie agrees with James and she says that the Freely Unova girl should follow their example. Since she won, Cynthia advances to the semifinals, where she will face Ash or Steven. After the battle, Iris makes her way to the locker room with her head down. She is clearly sad. Ash soon approaches Iris saying, "It's a shame that you lost." Iris soon tears up. She says that she did indeed lose and that Cynthia is just so amazing. Iris then starts crying while repeating that Cynthia is amazing. Now, regardless of what I think of the episode or the battle, this right here just breaks my heart. It is so sad to see Iris cry like this, and I did feel very bad for her here. Go soon appears just as Iris starts full on crying. But Iris soon stops crying, saying that she feels a lot better now that she let it all out. She then says to Go while smiling that they should cheer for Ash together. See, there you go, a smile suits you so much better. Go says yes and Ash says that he is counting on both of them. The episode ends with Ash and Steven entering the battlefield, since it is finally time for them to battle. But that's the episode. So overall, I am rather mixed on this episode. Objectively speaking, the battle, and by extension the episode, was good. Not great, but not bad either. It was well animated, it had several epic, cool and awesome moments throughout. Iris was able to show just how much she has grown. Cynthia was able to show why she is such an amazing character. Haxorus was able to flex his strength, and the battle was definitely not an absolute and undeniable train wreck like Leon vs. Alon. Far from it, in fact. However, while objectively the battle was good, I do think that it left a bit to be desired. Which is why personally, I was disappointed with the battle and, by extension, with the episode. First, I think that Excadrill vs. Gastrodon was cool. It was a pretty good battle, especially because it had rain as a backdrop. But I was not a fan of the way this battle ended, since it just felt cheap and anticlimactic, since Gastrodon had the upper hand the entire time and Excadrill won because of luck. Second, what happened to Dragonite is an absolute disgrace, and this alone soured the battle for me. Dragonite should have been given the chance to show Cynthia just how strong he is now that he listens to Iris. The fact that this did not happen betrays the whole point of having Iris face Cynthia. It goes against the motif of the episode. And it is just plain awful to have Dragonite be defeated like this. It also does not make sense, because Milotic was able to take a barrage of thunder punches and it was still able to wreck Dragonite. While Dragonite is hit with disarming boys and it falls to one knee, leaving it open to get wrecked. It really feels like Dragonite was just sacrificed so that Haxorus could hog all the spotlight, which is just terrible. Dragonite definitely deserved much better. Also, I have to wonder if the writers have something against the Dragonite in general, since Ash's Dragonite has lost twice in a row. Lance's Dragonite was defeated by Diantha's Gardevoir, though at least Lance's Dragonite got to defeat one opponent. And now, Iris's Dragonite is completely disrespected. The Dragonite just cannot catch a break. Also, it is worth noting that Dragonite was likely sacrificed not just for Haxorus, but also for Excadrill, who appears in this episode after a long absence, unlike Dragonite, who appeared in episode 65 of Journeys. So of course, they can't have Excadrill be the sacrifice. Now, we also saw Haxorus in episode 65, but since he is Iris's main Pokemon, he was not going to be sacrificed. Third, I think that Haxorus vs Garchomp was good, since it had some very cool moments in it, namely the intense brawls between both Pokemon, and it is awesome that we got to see Cynthia Mega Evolve Garchomp. The final clash of moves was quite the impressive spectacle, and Iris and Haxorus were also able to show the strength of their bond and their strength in general. Even without an ultimate technique / transformation of their own, they were still able to face Mega Garchomp without getting completely stomped. And while they lost in the end, they did not do so without putting up a good fight worthy of a champion. Plus, they made Cynthia get serious. If this does not adequately show just how far they have come, then nothing will. Still, I feel that if they had allotted more time to the overall battle, Haxorus vs Garchomp could have been a lot better, since there would have been more time for more intense clashes and epic moments that would have elevated this battle to greater heights. The heights that it deserved to reach. This really should have been one of the best battles in this series. But for me, its potential was squandered. And I think that lack of time is to blame for this. They could have had an extra minute and 21 seconds to allot to the battle just by skipping the recap and the Pokédex entries on Gastrodon and Excadrill. Two things that no one wants or needs. A minute and 21 seconds might seem trivial and insignificant, but trust me, if they had given half of this, 40 seconds roughly, to both Dragonite vs Milotic and Haxorus vs Garchomp, the battle could have improved significantly. 40 seconds is just enough time for Dragonite and Milotic to land 2 or 3 more attacks, which would have made their battle more meaningful, since Dragonite would have had more time to show his power, and if he would have still been defeated, then at least it would have been more believable, since it would have taken more to defeat him. And maybe Dragonite could have tied with Milotic, or he could have even defeated Milotic. 40 seconds is also just enough time for a prolonged brawl between Haxorus and Garchomp, with both Pokemon just pummeling each other with brute force, which would have made their battle even more intense. Just a minute and 21 seconds could have made this battle and episode much better without sacrificing anything. And if they had paced better some of the other non-battle parts of the episode, or had they downright removed them, then they could have had even more time to enhance the battle while losing little to no value in the overall episode. In fact, the improvements to the battle would have made up for what little value they would have lost by removing, say, some of the banter between Ashop and Go, which was sometimes unnecessary, or showing more Pico eating a bunch of different things, which was definitely unnecessary. The time spent on these could have been put to better use by expanding the battle. Instead, they opted not to do this, which is why the awful pacing of Pokemon Journeys has claimed another victim, which is a shame. Beyond the battle, I do think that it was great to see so many familiar faces return. Moments like these continue to be a high point of this series and of this tournament. So yeah, for me, this was overall a disappointing episode, but only because I expected so much from it and because a lot of its potential was squandered unnecessarily. I hope that the remaining battles will be better. But that's the video. As always, leave your own thoughts down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and would like to see more like it, then please consider subscribing to my channel. I love Pokemon and I love making videos on both the anime and the games. Also, please consider clicking the links on screen so that you can check out more videos like this right away. Thank you very much for watching, and let's meet again in the next video.